Okay, no noises or talking. Okay, shush. My show's starting. Shush. Welcome, New York Jets fans, and Happy New Year. 2025 has been a bad year all the way around for this team. And mercifully, we only have one game left. That in itself is a reason to celebrate. So let's get fired up. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. If you have not already, please subscribe to the channel while you're here and hit that like button as hard as you possibly can. Before I get into it, while I can't see everyone who is subscribed to the channel, I would like to welcome some of our new subscribers. So, Brother Gary, Jet Jaro, Jets Forever, Derek the Cop, Lena, and E Boogie, thank you so much for subscribing. I want to start this show off by saying I want this to be an educational show. So often we hear people talk about a guy has a high football IQ. And you know what? I think right now that's something that this team is severely lacking is guys that have that high football IQ. Now, Saleh and Joe Douglas, they filled this team with good guys, high character guys. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. However, they did not fill the team with guys who have a high football IQ. I said that from the very beginning. You know, when Sherwood went to replace CJ Mosley, yes, he's fast. You know, he can tackle. Good. He's a linebacker. He's supposed to be able to tackle. I was worried about the cerebral part of the game. Is he going to be able to diagnose what the offense is doing? Is he going to be able to get guys lined up in the right spots? So far, I don't think so. One thing that I really hate, and I mean, we can criticize this team for all kinds of things, but dude, these videos that they put out, asking the players, you know, ridiculous questions and stuff, like, if I was the team, I would want to give the impression that they're focused on football, not, you know, what's your favorite movie or, you know, some bullshit. At any rate, I saw one of these clips today, and it was, how well do Jamie Sherwood and Quincy Williams know each other? And they asked Quincy, what's your favorite hit? And man, let me tell you what, this is a symptom of the exact problem that we have. Okay. He said, oh, his favorite hit was the Kyler Murray hit. Comes on the blitz, gets the sack. You know, oh yeah, it looks brutal. You know, he knocks Kyler's helmet off, and then he does his trademark uppercut. As they're showing the clip, you see Kyler go down, his helmet goes flying, and you hear the commentator say, the ball is out. What is Quincy doing? He's over there doing his uppercut. He's got no idea that he forced a fumble because he's in too big of a hurry to fucking go and celebrate. And this is not the only time he's done that. I believe it was in 2022 when we played the Bengals. The same exact thing. He makes the hit, forces the fumble, and he's over there celebrating. Meanwhile, one of his teammates recovers the fumble. They're a third of the way down the field before Quincy even realized the ball had come out. that is an issue. Uh, Personally, I have nothing against the guys celebrating if they make a play or something, but in a year like this, where we're a 3-win team and literally just about anything that can go wrong has, I'm not crazy about seeing guys doing their personal celebrations. Uh, you know, and the bullshit with, McCrary Ball rolling around on the floor, whatever that crap was. Uh, this most recent game, Clark going and wanting to get in Diggs' face, you know, just stupid shit. Uh, there's no place for it. Listen, we've all suffered this season, and I always try to stay positive. I try to point out the positives that have happened in this season, but even I have to admit the negatives by far outweigh the positives. That's not to say there haven't been any improvement, but it hasn't been enough. I from the very beginning have been an Aaron Glenn supporter. I still am, but I am not above criticizing this team. Okay, but I want to keep it constructive criticism. And I hear a lot of people saying, we need to fire AG. I'm not on board with that, but I think we need to really look at some things. Like the year started off. We had some one-score games that we probably should have won but didn't. Then things just got progressively worse, and you could argue that things have gotten worse under Glenn, not better. And that's true, but something that Jake Asman always says, like, you have to add context to the situation. Like, you can't just say, that things have gotten worse, but why have they gotten worse? Well, since those wins that we had, against Cincinnati and Cleveland, we lost Garrett Wilson, who, let's not kid ourselves, a vast majority of our offensive production, particularly in the passing game, came from Garrett Wilson. He accounted for more of our receiving yardage than everybody else put together. Losing him was a huge blow. And I cannot count the number of times that I've seen Garrett get hit, get up limping, and the first thing I think is like, oh my God, no. Like, that's the one guy we can't afford to lose. Well, our luck finally ran out, and he finally did get injured, and we lost him for the year, which sucks. I would have liked nothing more than to see him get another 1,000-yard season. Additionally, since that time, we lost not only Brownlee, who was a Glenn and Muji acquisition, but we also lost A.Z. Thomas. The whole reason that I think Muji and Glenn were okay trading away Sauce is because they had confidence in Thomas to be able to step in and take over that role. Well, he's hurt too, so that plan goes out the window. And yes, things did snowball. They did get worse going down the year. But I think the reason that we went from losing close games to getting completely our doors blown off these last several games, no Garrett, no Brownlee, no Thomas, now no Will McDonald. I mean, I would like you to tell me the coach that can lose their number one receiver, their best pass rusher, and 2 out of 3 of their starting corners and still be competitive. Now, you could lose maybe a couple of those guys, but listen, this season has been a shit show. the injuries have just kind of piled up on us. And, you know, I didn't expect to win. As soon as Brady Cook was our starter, I didn't expect to win any games from there. Now, and what cracks me up is people actually think like, oh, watch, we're going to beat the Bills and mess up our draft spot. I don't even think that we're capable of beating the Bills' backups at this point, the shape that the team is in. Now, I've heard a lot of suggestions. You know, we need to bring in this guy. We need to bring in that guy. Let me tell you something. For all you John Gruden fans out there that think we need to bring in Gruden is kind of like Belichick. It's become apparent could only win if he had Tom Brady. Without Tom Brady, he wasn't that good. John Gruden is like the ultimate mirage. He came here to Tampa with a championship caliber team that was already built for him. And yes, he won a Super Bowl against his former team that was still running his offense. And he knew what was coming. As time progressed, they didn't go on multiple runs. That team ended up falling apart. He went to the Raiders. They were crap with him as a coach. I'm not buying all the John Gruden hype. I think that living in Tampa the majority of my life, I'm probably privy to some things about Gruden that maybe some other people don't know. Also, the Mike McCarthy fans out there. Dude, like these guys, in my opinion, I think the game has passed these guys by. I don't want to run some antiquated offense and think that that's going to be the answer, especially if we're talking about developing a young quarterback. But this is what I'd really like to dig into. Now, there's been a lot of speculation about like who should we bring in to help develop this young quarterback. And if you look at, some of these supposed, offensive geniuses around the league, like Shanahan, he's got a good defense and a good running game to rely on. Now, he also is very good at scheming that run game. Not trying to take anything away from him at all, but did they really develop Brock Purdy, or is that defense and run game good enough where it just allows him to be Brock Purdy and that's enough? Sean McVay, who I have a tremendous amount of respect for. Dude, he wasn't winning with Jared Goff, moved on from Jared Goff. Jared Goff's actually been better since leaving the Rams, and brought in Stafford. Well, he sure as hell didn't develop Stafford. Stafford was already a good quarterback, but it got them over the hump. It was the move they needed to make. Now, one thing I'll tell you that McVay did do, or the Rams did do, which I think was an incredibly smart move. And no, I am going to talk some Florida State, but I'm not going to suggest we draft guys from Florida State. Even though, yes, I do love Florida State.
I'm Rickie, New York, and I love to smoke. Florida State, I really love Florida State. Hey, easy Thomas, you know it's from Florida State. At any rate, I call into smoking debate. Florida State, I really love Florida State. At any rate, thanks for taking my call, G.
Okay, so back to the conversation. The one thing that the Rams did that I thought was incredibly smart, and I think the Jets could take a page from their playbook, is when Aaron Donald retired, they said, and then in that following draft, they took Jared Verse in the first round and then his teammate, Braden Fisk, in the second round. And they said, there is no one guy that could replace Aaron Donald. However, we picked two guys, and we think these two guys together can. And both have been pretty damn good players for that team. Now, I'm not necessarily suggesting that we draft players from the same team, because that's incredibly hard to do. The draft would have to fall just right, and it would have to be the players that you wanted. But in free agency, I think this is something we could apply to free agency this coming year. Okay. Everybody has been talking about Malik Willis the last couple of days, week plus. That has become the hot name linked to the Jets as our bridge quarterback. Malik Willis, even though he's only started, a small number of games, he does have starting experience. And in the games that he started, he has showed progression. Like, he's gotten better, incrementally better with each start. Romeo Doubs, who was a hot name around the trade deadline, which I knew wasn't going to happen because with Christian Watson not back from injury, and other injuries at receiver that they had, like they weren't going to get rid of him. He was their de facto number one at that time. However, he is an unrestricted free agent. I think it would be very smart of the Jets to not only sign Dobbs in free agency, but bring in Willis with him. Then you have a quarterback receiver combination that already has chemistry together, who have already played together. And I think that could only benefit us in the long run, especially trying to build something the way that they are. Now, I'm going to even take that a step further. There were a lot of people during this past offseason that wanted Vrabel for a coach. And you know what? Maybe it's not too late. Maybe we can still have Vrabel for a coach. No, not that one. This one. Jason Vrabel, who right now is the Green Bay Packers passing game coordinator. He was already with the Jets in 2017, 2018. He was with the Jets, and he was also with the Bills under Rex Ryan. He's been there as they have developed Jordan Love. And that was the real test for me. Like I said, Sean McVay, great offensive mind, but he didn't develop Stafford. So I started looking around the league at what team has a quarterback that team actually developed the quarterback. And Jordan Love was the one example that really stood out to me. So you bring in Willis from the Packers, you bring in Dobbs from the Packers, you bring in Vrabel to be, senior offensive assistant in charge of developing the quarterback. I don't know. Give him a title, whatever, quarterback coach. But I think that would be, another big benefit. Like, you bring in two players that have chemistry together, who've played together, and you bring in a coach who knows them. And just like I said, they've done a good job developing Jordan Love. We're going to have a young quarterback that we need to develop. So I want somebody that's got some of a track record. So to me, if we're going to bring in a couple players like that have that built-in chemistry and a coach, who's been there and helped to develop a quarterback, like, to me, that's a step in the right direction. That's something that if I was the Jets, I would seriously look into.
Now that is a hot take. Damn.
And it's, it's easy to sit around and bitch and complain and say, just let's fire Aaron Glenn. None of us need to be reminded of the problem. Let's hear some solutions. And I don't, not solutions like, oh, anybody'd be better than Glenn, just hire this guy. Okay, well, what kind of system are we going to run under that guy? Oh, I don't care. I don't care as long as it's not Glenn. Like that's not an answer. Put some thought into it. Put some research into it, and I'm going to keep going down this path where looking at different people around the league. And listen, I saw a tweet a couple of days ago, and actually, I think it was yesterday, and it couldn't be more true. The tweet said, Aaron Glenn is not getting fired. So, as fans, you've got two choices. You can either get on board and support him and hope that they can turn the corner and hope that this works, or you can scream and yell and be pissed off for no reason because it's not going to do any good because he's not going anywhere anyway. If it's me, like, dude, like, we all, every offseason, we've got players that we want drafted. We got free agents that we want. And at the end of the day, the Jets are going to do whatever they're going to do. And we can like it. We can hate it. It doesn't matter. It's out of our control. Now, I have found, some creative ways to try to reach out to the team and make my opinion known. Hell, when we signed Mike Williams, we had a guy send a breakfast sandwich. You know what? He got it. I don't know personally that all of my messages have gotten through to their intended receivers, but I'm damn sure going to try. I'll make my suggestions. If they take them, fine. If they don't, fine. At the end of the day, I just want this team to get better. I do think that Aaron Glenn is the right guy, but he needs to improve as well. Like I'm not going to condemn certain things, but you know what? When we were getting ready to hire a coach and we were talking about potential coaches, I remember people saying, oh, well, what about Pete Carroll? I'd call him if he's interested in coaching. He's a Super Bowl winning coach. Well, look how that's working out for the Raiders. They're the one team that's probably even shittier than ours. So I don't want to just like say, oh, anybody will be better, because that's not always true. And I'm not going to say it couldn't get much worse, because you know what? When we fired Robert Saleh, we all said that. Well, it can't get much worse. And you know what? It did. And with this team in particular, I never want to say that, it can't get any worse, because it can. I'll be damned if I'm going to say that just so the Jets can prove me wrong, and it can get worse. But at any rate, the point is that no matter how much we bitch and scream and yell and, type that we want Aaron Glenn fired, it's not going to happen. Like, he's going to be here. So we can either get on board or we can waste a whole bunch of time bitching about it. Me, I'd rather use my time on something constructive. So I was actually going to do some mock drafts tonight. However, I had promised myself weeks ago that I would not fall into that trap and start doing mocks, at least not on the show, until the season ended. And with only 1 week to go, I'm going to keep that promise to myself, so I'm not going to do that. But I wanted to do it just in order to kind of demonstrate like how much of an improvement we could make with this team, like how quickly it could possibly get turned around. And I will make you guys a promise. Whenever I do get to that point where I start doing mocks, it's not going to be, one of these things where I sit there and waste, a bunch of your time and mine and, go over like, okay, let's see who's available. Like, dude, I've done so many of those things. I'm really fast at it. So I'm going to do like a couple of rapid fire mocks, just the first couple of rounds as an example. But we've got the ammunition right now that if they pick the right players and hit on those picks, we could turn this thing around reasonably quick. I could see that Alan is in the chat. And I agree with Alan 1,000,000%, that Dylan Thieneman, free safety from Oregon, is like, he's one of my guys that I would almost consider to be a must draft player. And you know what? It seems like every regime we have, oh, they don't value safety. They don't put a priority on safety. And they think they can make it work with just some guy back there. And you know what? We've had just some guy, from Ashton Davis to Tony Adams to Andre Sisco. We've always got just some guy back there. I want a really good kick-ass safety. And this is the thing with Thieneman. Not only is he a ball hawk, lays the big hits, but he's also got that high football IQ that I was talking about. And he joined Oregon this year through the transfer portal, came from Purdue. But in his first year at Oregon, he's already back there in the secondary, like getting guys lined up in the right spots. And you know what? I think our young secondary could use leadership like that. He's one of the few players that I would consider almost a must draft player for this team. Dude, Alan, he was everywhere today. He was awesome. You know, I remember looking at the game in like the third quarter, and he had 12 tackles. Like, you know, granted, not all of them solo, but he was all over the place. I really like that kid. Tenacity. I mean, I'm not going to go and say high motor, like all these, you know, football catchphrases that everybody uses all the time. But in this instance, it's all true. Yeah, just some guy. You know what? It seems like we've always had some guy ever since like Victor Green. Like, I mean, I don't know. I guess you could say maybe Kerry Rhodes briefly, something. And I like that comment, Alan. I said that before. Thieneman is like Harrison Smith with better ball skills. And you know what? I would take that any day of the week. Absolutely. By the way, real quick, before I forget, the last show we did over the weekend, I gave out prizes to everyone that was calling in. Like the first 4 callers got something just for calling in. Nate got a cool Jets hoodie. Clancy got autographed Joe Klecko helmet. And then Addison and Rick Kent both got some Rickie New York Live merch. So this time I'm not going to give out prizes to everybody that calls in. However, anybody that calls in is going to automatically get entered for our New Year's giveaway that we're going to give away the prize at the end of January. And, you know, I'm not monetized, so, you know, there are no super chats or gifted memberships or anything like that. This is all just kind of coming out of my own pocket as a way to say thank you to people for supporting the show. I don't know what the prize is going to be yet. I've got a bid right now on an autographed Garrett Wilson helmet, which as long as I win, that will be the prize. But auction's not over yet, so I can't say that. But at any rate, I just wanted to throw that out there. Once again, appreciate all you guys for being here and supporting me. It definitely means a lot. Anyhow, so this weekend, we got the Buffalo Bills. Chances are they're probably going to be resting some players. I don't think it matters. And listen, the Jets are tanking. They may not say they're tanking. I know Aaron Glenn's still saying that they're going to go out there and try to win this game. Listen, if Aaron Glenn really wanted to win these games, he wouldn't have shut down Garrett Wilson for the year. He'd be pushing him to try to get back. If he really wanted to win games, he wouldn't be rolling with Brady Cook the rest of the way. I've seen the videos from practice, where Tyrod is out there stretching with the guys, and dude, like it's very obvious that we're tanking, and at this point, I'm okay with it. I'll never root for losses, but I can accept it. And dude, listen, today was awesome. As far as college football, and we still got college football going on right now, which I'm going to go back and watch the remainder of the game when the show ends, and then probably watch the portion that I missed after that. But just like tonight, Georgia's playing. We got CJ Allen, who I really like, really, really good linebacker, which this is a very good linebacker class, which is good news for us because, in my opinion, that whole linebacker room needs a remake. But, we saw the Ohio State guys. Today, earlier, we saw Oregon, like I was talking about, Dylan Thieneman. You got Emmanuel Pregnon, their guard, who's probably is one of the better guards, top 2 guards coming out of this class. Mateo Uiagalelei, the pass rusher. There's some Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end. There's a lot of good players on Oregon that are coming out in this draft. Also, Texas Tech. You got David Bailey, who's probably the best pure pass rusher in this entire draft class, bar none. And on the other side, you got Romello Height, who's somebody that I have mocked to the Jets a whole bunch, a player that I really, really like. Dude, there's so many good players to watch in these college football games that are going on right now. So, and you know what, Valerie? I think that's true for, to some extent. And I think that's why Glenn walked back his comments about effort this last game, because it wasn't universal. It wasn't like all of the guys had quit or were just kind of, doing the bare minimum, phoning it in. But there definitely were some that did. I remember watching that game, and right at the beginning of the game, Malachi Moore had a really nice run stop where he shot the gap and dropped the running back in the backfield. And then also Sherwood had a really nice run stop, tackle for a loss too. And I was thinking, damn, you know what? These guys are still playing. But aside from Malachi Moore, Sherwood looked like he was still giving an effort, but inconsistent. And like Jermaine, like a lot of the other guys on defense, it does seem like that. It does seem like, they're just ready for the year to end. You know what, Kyle Clifton? Don't throw it away quite yet. Don't buy too much into the Glenn hate. And listen, I know this year has been historically bad, but you can't blame it all on coaching. At the beginning of the year, we were in some games, some one-score games that, dude, I don't think anybody can explain what happened with Justin Fields this year. I don't know if it was the injury, obviously just mentally he's not there, but people are saying oh, we should run more RPOs. And so how are you going to do that with a quarterback that's refusing to do it. Like, oh, they wanted to run some wildcat. He said he's not doing it. Like, and that shit pissed me off. Okay. You got a lot of guys on this team who would do anything they could to help this team win. Just like AVT was a good example. He switched positions multiple times. Whatever they needed him to do, he would do it. Justin Fields was the exact opposite of that. After Fields came back from the injury, he wasn't running at all. I don't know if that was coaches trying to protect him or just him refusing or not being willing to do it. But, then the defense started to play a little bit better. But then we lose Garrett. Then we lose Brownlee. Then Thomas. Then Will McDonald. And when the offense was playing okay at the beginning of the year, the defense was playing awful. Probably, some of the worst I've seen. Then we get to the mid-season part of the season. Our special teams are kicking ass, but the offense and defense are both kind of stinking. This year has just been a perfect shit show. Like, at no point did all three phases work at the same time. But like I said, Aaron Glenn ain't going nowhere. So you can holler and scream and stomp your feet and be mad all you want. It ain't going to change nothing. So you can either get on board and support it or sit around being mad, and it's not going to matter anyway. Well, that would suck, Kyle. I hope you change your mind. I hope when next year starts and we're 3-3, you go, maybe I'll give it one more shot. You're kidding me, Alan. I did not see that. Okay. Well, that sucks. That sucks. There was, you know what? Now I will go ahead and call Dylan Thieneman a must draft player because that was one of my highly ranked free agents for this year. Now we could still get Cameron Curl from the same team, who's been decent for them. But Quentin Lake was one of my favorite free agents. Damn. So, oh well. Lost the defensive tackle from the Ravens re-signed. Now Quentin Lake is re-signed. Hell, if Linderbaum resigns too, then that'll be all three of my top three guys off the board as far as free agency goes. But you know what? Romeo Dobbs has got to be in that conversation too. And the other thing is like I said, in addition to if we were to bring in Willis and we brought in Dobbs, the two of them having chemistry already, the other thing is that allows us to go into the draft without having to really worry about receiver. Like, I wouldn't mind a later, mid-round one, but it wouldn't be a priority. We could focus those efforts in other places. So, at any rate, you know what? I don't know if Mendoza, showing out today is good or bad. There's always a team that does something screwy in the first round of the draft. There's sometimes teams that do screwy shit at the very top of the draft like that. And the Raiders are, historically, I know this is a different regime, but just like how the Jets, regardless of regime, seem to have some of the same bad things happen, the Raiders are like that too. The last time the Raiders took a quarterback number 1 overall, it was Jamarcus Russell. The year that Baker Mayfield went number 1 overall, nobody saw that coming. Nobody thought that, they're going to take Mayfield over Darnold and Josh Allen. Like, nobody saw that coming. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that the Raiders are just going to automatically, take him if he's there. Um, they're a team that also does dumb shit all the time. Now, there could be one of two scenarios. Either the Giants end up with that pick, which makes it easier for us to trade with them. But even if the Raiders have that pick, with all the draft picks and ammo that we have, what's to say that the Jets don't offer them, something crazy to move up and we get him anyway? Like, I'm not gonna assume anything. Time will tell. We'll see what happens and see how that unfolds. On the surface, yeah, it probably doesn't look like that did us any favors. There is no way for us to get to number one now, so we got to either hope the Giants move back into number one or something crazy happens and the Raiders either screw themselves or we can offer them enough for them to be willing to trade. But apologize. Every once in a while, I'll pull a Charles and get sucked into the comments and be reading the comments and lose my train of thought. But at any rate, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. I don't really have any callers waiting right now, so I'm probably not going to let this go real long. Initially was not thinking about the fact that the game, there was games on tonight too. I know probably some of you are probably multitasking and doing that and this. However, I'm probably going to go and finish watching that Georgia game myself. And, I'll be taking some notes and doing some evaluation during that. But I wanted to come on for at least a little while tonight. Since I didn't do a show on Tuesday, apologies. Tuesday was my daughter's birthday, and we actually have a couple of birthdays in my family this week, and so I've had personal stuff going on, and but I wanted to come on for at least a little while tonight, and it's been getting to me, like just listening to some of the bad takes and some of the bad ideas from people. I can understand. The results have not been there to justify, to a lot of people keeping Aaron Glenn. There have been some things that have been of his own making. There have been some things that were beyond his control. At the end of the day, the product just was not good enough. Period. Okay, well, Alan, you can call in then. You know what? Do me a favor though, Alan. Definitely call in when it gets to be draft time, because I actually really enjoy talking to you about the different prospects. Dude, draft time is always fun for me. I do a lot of research, a lot of work on the draft and the different prospects. And, I've said it before. I'm a nerd at heart. I like doing homework. I like doing research. So, I have a good time when it comes to be draft time. But anyhow, again, thank you all for joining me. Appreciate all of you. I will be back Saturday night at 8 p.m. You know what? That's one. Before I go, that is one thing I wanted to say. Like I heard somebody saying today, like, I've been supporting Aaron Glenn this whole time. Okay. At any rate, somebody said today that like I've been supporting Aaron Glenn this whole time, but after this last press conference, what he said, like I think I'm ready to just throw in the towel on it now. And I'm like, really? Like I get it with the press conferences. You know what? I think he's misspoken several times. I think his approach has been less than perfect several times. But at the end of the day, like I could give two shits what he says at the podium. I don't care. Like, I don't care that the guy's not a good public speaker. I don't care that he's not engaging with the beat writers. Like, dude, these beat writers throw this team under the bus every chance they get. Now all of a sudden the fan base is on the side of the media and not the coach. Ridiculous. Yeah, I really don't care. I don't care what he says when he gets up there. I just want to see results on the field. And you know what? Maybe, you know what? Some people could say, well, you're making excuses for Aaron Glenn. Okay, so be it. You can look at it that way if you want. But like I said, most teams don't lose their number one receiver, their best tight end, their best pass rusher, their two of their three starting corners, and are still competitive. What's happening, man?
What's up, Rick?
Not a whole lot. Just chilling and doing a little bit of debating. But you know, like I said, I was really sitting down and thinking about it and listening to people talk. And I get it if people want like an offensive minded coach. I can get that. But I really started thinking about it, and I'm thinking, who around the league has developed a quarterback? Like taken a quarterback that's raw and then turned him into like the real deal. And dude, I don't know if I can give that credit to Shanahan or McVay or any of those guys. Like you know, the only quarterback that I can see that's really developed over time has been Jordan Love. And so that's why I said if it was me, I'd be picking some people out of that Packers offensive staff. So,
or he sat for 3 years though. He sat for 3 years.
Yes, he did. He did. He sat for a long time, and
which just isn't happening nowadays, unfortunately.
Right. And
you can't give anyone credit for Herbert. With the Chargers, that's all talent on his end, basically.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, C.J. Stroud was already pretty damn good when he got to the league,
and he still got to get much better as well.
Yeah, he's still got time to develop, but I'm saying like he was already that guy when he came in.
Definitely.
So yeah, I'm looking for a guy who they've actually developed over time. And Love was probably like the best example I could find of that. So and when I started thinking about it, I'm like thinking, well shit, everybody already seems to want Malik Willis. A lot of people wanted Romeo Doubs at the trade deadline, and he's a free agent. And the free agent receivers really is not a lot to write home about this year. There's not a lot of really good ones.
I think we'd rather draft our receivers.
You know what? I would be okay, going into the year with Mitchell and Dobbs and Garrett, and then say in like the fourth or something, you grab another guy like whether it's Deion Burks or Skylar Bell or a guy like that, to add some stuff. But not at the top. Like I don't want to have to use one of those top four because we got so many other holes. If we can get our quarterback without having to trade up, that's awesome. But like I said, I would like a really good safety. A linebacker is almost a must-have, like period. and we could use another pass rusher. And I've done enough of these. I've done enough of these mocks to know that if you don't get one by that pick 46 and you wait until 104, there ain't shit worth a pass rusher left by that point. Like they're all gone.
Yeah, you got to get them earlier for sure. But tell me, you wouldn't see. I mean, say we took a quarterback early somehow, whoever it winds up being. You wouldn't want a wide receiver at 18 or 16? I would. I would.
No, me personally, no. Like, and most of the mocks that I've done are like that. For a while, it was all defense, but it just after quarterback. But sometimes I'll throw a guard in there, but most of the time it's been defense. Like most of my mocks, if you look at them, a lot of them were the same. I've been trying to switch it up as much as I can lately, but most of my mocks are like quarterback at 3, and then at 18, either Sonny Styles or CJ Allen, linebacker. And then, either like Romello Height, R. Mason Thomas, pass rusher at 35, and safety, whether it's AJ Halsey, Dylan Thieneman, one of those guys with 46. And that's the way most of my mocks have looked. Because I'll tell you what, Skylar Bell from UConn, really good receiver. What I liked about him, and he was for a while was like one of my top 3 Aaron Glenn type guys in this draft, was just like the way he's always fighting for extra yardage and never gives up on a play. Like I like that tenacity from him. And but also like Deion Burks. Like I remember, I don't know if it was Yeti or who it was. Somebody the other day in Jake's show typed like, when are we going to get our next Wayne Corbett? And then, dude, the other night I was watching that Oklahoma game. Deion Burks, the way he worked the sideline and was catching those balls, leaning out and stuff. I'm like, damn, you know what? Nice. Maybe that's our next Corbett right there. And again, that's a guy that you could get at that like 104 pick. So I don't think we necessarily, I'm not opposed to taking one. I just don't want to take one at the top.
I hear you. It's probably a deep class, I imagine.
Yeah. There's quite a few good receivers in this class. I mean, there's some good linebackers in this class too, but I think after those top 3, there's a significant drop off, and again, like there's a lot of good pass rushers in this class too, but I've done enough different mocks to know that like if you wait until 104, you ain't getting one. Like the only pass rusher I was able to get as late as 104 up until day before yesterday would have been Messidor from Miami. After that game that he just had, I guarantee you his draft stock's climbing and he ain't going to be there either.
Yeah, so, how about this? How about if say Mendoza's the only quarterback, Allen's dream comes true, and he's the only one who's worth it up there, and the Raiders take him. Even though they're talking about Lamar to the Raiders next year now, but that's a whole other story. I wouldn't be opposed to taking Falk or Bain right there at 3. We couldn't get our quarterback.
You know what? If we were going to definitely not taking a quarterback there, honestly, I would probably move back if I could.
Yeah, that's ideal. But still, you wouldn't take one of those big-time edge rushers right there? I would.
I would be tempted to. Listen, and I was a real big Keldrick Falk guy.
He's built like he's built like an Adonis.
Yeah, he's huge. And that's the thing. I think he might be a little bit better suited for a 3-4 as opposed to what we're running.
Yeah.
Me personally, if I definitely wasn't taking a quarterback, I would try to move back. Not real far, granted, but I would see if I could slide back a couple spots. Now, in that situation, say we're definitely not taking a quarterback. Let's say we get Malik Willis for a bridge, and then the draft doesn't fall our way, and we can't get the quarterback there.
You could
You
take
know what?
Harvell Reese. You could take Harvell Reese right there if you didn't get the quarterback. Maybe.
You know what? If it was absolute, we weren't getting a quarterback. I'll tell you, and this is just me, and we had no choice but to stick and pick. Say nobody wants to trade.
Exactly.
That would be the one exception where I would take a receiver right there. I would pull the trigger and take Carnell Tate, like without hesitation.
At 3?
Yeah, if we couldn't trade back, yeah. I think, a lot of people are going to debate Jordan Tyson versus him, but and Tyson's a really good route runner. He's a good player, but dude, he gets hurt a lot, and I just the injuries scare me. Like I definitely don't.
Who's Tyson? The kid from Arizona State, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but if it was me, yeah. And I mean, in a perfect world, you get to trade back a couple of spots and still, be able to get that player. But yeah, and what's that?
And I like tango in a draft, though, right?
Yep, and that's the thing. And crazy trades do happen all the time, but they usually don't seem to happen with us. Like I've seen us move up at the end of drafts, but not not usually at the beginning. We're usually the guys that are trading back. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not as high on Harvell Reese as a lot of people are.
Really?
Yeah, like I don't know, man. Like there's something like as a linebacker, definitely no. I think when he gets to the league, he's probably going to be an end. And I don't know. I'm just like, dude, he's an awesome player, but like, I don't know. It's kind of like that same thing with Abdul Carter last year. Like I think that those two are very similar players.
Yeah, but I don't think Abdul doesn't have the skills to be really good. I think he's got to get focused, obviously, and take it a little more serious.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like for me, and
I'm here. I'm listening.
Yeah, it would all just depend how the board falls, but and that's just me, that's just my personal preference. But if we definitely weren't getting a quarterback and I had to stick and pick, it would probably be Carnell Tate.
Yeah, but you didn't want to take. Yeah. So that's if we didn't get a quarterback. You didn't want to take one at 18, but that was getting a quarterback. So and I know.
Well, yeah, that's because there ain't no way in hell that Tate's going to be there at 18.
Yeah,
he's coming off probably the top 6 or 7 players. He'll be gone.
You think he's the number one wide receiver?
It depends who you ask. Most people have Tyson as the consensus number 1. But there's other people that like Tate. Me personally, I prefer Tate out of the two.
Yeah.
I heard somebody talking about Bain today, and I don't completely buy all of the argument, but they're like, with his size, like arm length, everything else, they were like, he's not going to be able to just bull rush his way past, every NFL offensive tackle. So if they really want it to be effective, he's probably going to have to bulk up, and they're going to have to play him inside. And I think it was a little bit exaggerated, but the person did make some decent points. And
he's got to develop other pass rush moves.
Yeah. See, that's why I would if I wasn't getting a quarterback at 3, that's why I would want to trade back. Yeah,
that's ideal.
Let me trade back to that 8 through 10 range, and then
here's another one. Just hear me out. I know it's super high for a safety, but Downs may be the best player in the whole draft. If you're not going to get a quarterback and you don't want the receiver that high, whatever, what's the difference of taking him at 3 and 8? I don't know. You know, if you can't trade down, I would take a player like that.
Well, because if you move back, you're going to get an extra pick or maybe 2 out of
Obviously, but I said if you can't, you know, why not take the best player in the draft? You know, you see how good and how impactful really high end safeties are. It's kind of crazy the way they get downplayed.
Yeah. Well, see, that's what I was saying earlier. Like, I don't want just some guy at safety. We've done that for fucking years, and it's always a weakness for us. So, you know, that's why I wanted like a Thieneman or AJ Halsey. Like, there's a couple of good ones. Kamari Ramsey, I like a lot, although at times his tackling could be a little bit better because he's always going for like that knockout blow instead of just wrapping up. But that's like not anything that's not solvable. But dude, yeah, like, and you know, again, like if I was going to take a pass rusher, if I could have any pass rusher in this entire class, I had my pick, it would probably be David Bailey. Man, that guy, oh my God, he's got an arsenal of pass rush moves. He got the size, the motor, the everything. Like I think he is the best pure pass rusher in this entire class, hands down. Like that guy's a fucking animal.
Where's he from?
Texas Tech.
Oh, okay. I know you're talking about.
Yeah, they got 2 good ones there. Him and Romello Height are both really good.
The last,
unfortunately for them, they didn't have.
Hasn't panned out yet in the NFL.
What's that?
So remember the last Texas Tech DN that went a few years ago? I think to the Raiders, I believe. He hasn't done shit yet, but that was a few years ago. That was like 3-4 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I like both of those guys. Yeah, you know what? I want a good linebacker, a pass rusher, a safety.
We got plenty of holes to fill. Absolutely. It's like Johnny Boy's, greatest dream.
We definitely do. But see, that's the other thing too, is in addition to looking at the draft,
yes,
I've also been looking at free agency and like, are there good, there's not really a ton of linebackers in free agency that are worth a damn. And so the 1 or 2 decent ones that are out there, there's going to be, a fair amount of competition for. So I think it's, really important that we get one in the draft. Same thing with a lot of these positions we're talking about. Dude, pass rushers in free agency, nada.
Yeah, last year there was a couple. Yeah, that's definitely not going to be like that. You'd have to do what the Giants did, trade for a guy like Burns and give up assets.
See, and that's the other thing too, is like going back to like the Aaron Glenn thing, or people are like, well, Aaron Glenn, he's not a good coach because all these guys from Detroit aren't following him here. Like, dude, the guys from Detroit that were free agents, like, Levi Ozareke or whatever the fuck his name is, the defensive tackle, he wasn't no fucking good and he's always hurt. Like, you really want that guy to follow Glenn here? Like they didn't have good players that were free agents. It's not like, St. Brown and fucking Brian Branch were both free agents and they didn't follow here.
Definitely.
Like, I don't care that some bums that didn't follow him here. And that's the tricky thing too, is like anytime you get a coach that comes from another team, like people just automatically assume that all the players are going to follow him.
Yeah. Especially a first-time guy.
Yeah, but I'm not really, upset that.
He's not Parcells, yet.
About that. Right now, this year coming up might be different, but at any rate, that's the other thing that I'll say that I factor into the way I've been drafting in my mocks is looking at free agency. If I don't draft a guy, what is my other option for filling that hole? There isn't one. So that's why I said, like, if we could get like a Dobbs to fill that hole at receiver for now, because remember, we still got 3 firsts next year. So say that
Dobbs is solid. He's solid.
Yeah. And like, I think with him and Mitchell and Garrett healthy, like that's a decent trio at the top there.
Yeah.
Williams has kind of started to carve out a nice role for himself on offense when he gets the chance. Mechie, dude, has not been consistent enough for me
to he could still, he could be a second string guy still. He's still got to put work in.
Yeah.
He catch the ball,
he could be a backup, but
never seen
like I would be okay with that. Yeah, I'd be okay with that receiving group. And I'll tell you what, I'm hoping that we do get the quarterback this year. But if we don't, whatever, like I'm telling you what, now next year comes around and we got those 3 firsts, boy, I would be doing whatever I could probably to get Jeremiah Smith.
Well, that's really the reason you'd like to get a quarterback this year. So like you said, next year, you could do whatever you want. Get that number 1 pick somehow, even if you got to trade for it, and take that fucking wide receiver. Yeah. Because he's unbelievable. He really is.
Yeah, he really is. God, he's
everything.
Just so
he's
much
everything.
Bigger than the DBs.
He's everything. He really is.
He really is. And, I had a receiver that I liked from Florida State, and today he announced that he was going back to college for another year. So he's off the board. Deuce Robinson.
Wilson's a cornerback, right? Johnny Wilson's a cornerback?
Jerry Wilson, yeah.
Yeah.
Which we did have a receiver named Johnny Wilson. He's on the Eagles now.
That's what I thought. But yeah, we were looking at the D-back last night doing a mock, me and Nate, on Addie's show late night.
Yeah, he's a big guy, but he was always kind of stiff when you would watch him run and stuff. Deuce isn't like that. He's, for a guy as big as he is, because he's like 6'6", 234, but he's still got some quick twitch to him. Like there was one route where he got about 15 to 17 yards downfield and then like turned back like you thought it was going to be a comeback, but then he kept going. And dude, he just like broke that fucking corner's fucking ankles. And he moves extremely well for a guy that big.
Yeah.
So I really liked him, had over 1,000 yards this year, was a Biletnikoff finalist. He was a good player. And I'm thinking,
that's
man,
big.
if we could I was thinking, damn, if we could get that guy, late in the draft, like he's a day 3 pick, that would be fucking awesome. And hey, maybe it's just me, but there was him. And then there's a tight end, Tanner Koziel. He's from Houston. That he's fucking 6'7" and just a red zone beast too. And I'm thinking, man, I'd love to have a fucking red zone package with like a 6'6" receiver and a 6'7" fucking tight end. I'm thinking if you got to throw one of those Hail Mary balls where you got a group of fucking guys at the front of the end zone, to have 2 guys that big down there, that would be so awesome. And that was one thing I figured out from, watching Johnny Wilson when he was there and then Deuce this year is, dude, you put like a 6'6" receiver against a 5'11" tight end, that receiver is winning every single friggin' time.
Listen to this. Say we got a quarterback early and then a guy like Sadiq is there with the second first-round pick. You match him with Garrett and Mitchell and Mason Taylor and hopefully a running back, maybe Brees. But
yeah, and you're a Notre Dame.
He's a receiver,
right?
Kind of,
No, you know what? Never mind. I asked you this the other day. I just remembered I asked you this in the chat the other day about Malachi Fields and
I'm not positive on that.
Yeah, and I forget. Eli Raridon was the
Notre Dame was literally crushing teams the last fucking 6-7 games of the year. So it's like we were running the ball like crazy.
Right. And see, I don't know. Like I said, initially my mocks were like quarterback and then all defense. But then I started thinking about it, and I was like, man, if we do got a young quarterback, we got 2 guards that are both free. Well, not really, because I guess since we re-signed Myers, we're going to have Tippmann as one of our guards. But
Yeah, but we took
may
a
have
guard in
another
the second, though.
spot.
We took a good guard in the second. You're not wrong there. You could still take a good interior lineman to help you.
Yeah. So, whether that be Olivavenga Ione, the kid from Penn State, or Emmanuel Pregnon, the guy from Oregon, like I could see taking.
That's what we took.
Yeah.
The Oregon guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see taking one of those guys too. So,
hell yeah.
We'll get into some of that shit, and I'll do some mocks on here, and
oh yeah, plenty of time for that.
Maybe we'll do some mocks where I'll have callers pick, and either that or I'll put up some polls and let the chat vote on things, and I'll do it fairly. Again,
engagement.
I'm not going to call out any of my fellow content creators, but I remember one time when I first kind of started really getting into the different YouTube Jets shows and stuff. It was an off season, and somebody was doing a mock draft, and they're like, I'm going to put up a poll. And they would put up a poll, and then somebody would type a name in the chat, and they'd go, oh, yeah, I really like that guy. Oh, hold on. And they'd take the poll down, put a new one up. And it was like almost like they were trying to steer people in that direction. Like, well, I said I was going to end the poll in 5 minutes, but I'm going to give it 5 more minutes and see if I can't get my guy here. And I'm like, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah,
like,
you can't change it. No changing it. Yeah, once it's
up,
make the vote and then go.
Yeah, and the other thing was like, okay, so what positions do you guys want to see for the 3rd round? Type them in the chat. Like 10 people would type safety. He'd go, all right, so I'm going to put linebacker, guard, and corner. And it's like, what are you not reading the chat here, dude? Like, so I will make you that promise that if I do those, I will not try to steer the chat in any one direction or the other or sway their votes. Whatever the chat says is law. And so at any rate, man, like, yeah, we'll get into some of that shit. And,
absolutely.
We'll have some fun with that.
Absolutely.
But at any rate, I'm going to go ahead and wind this thing down and let everybody go and catch the remainder of that game. And I'm going to go and try to catch the remainder of that game as well. But thank you, everybody, for joining me, man. Appreciate all of you, like always. I will be back Saturday night at 8 p.m. And until then, like always, go Jets.
Hell yeah, Rickie.